2022, some 623 days ago. Dalton, first QB this season with 300-plus passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Now 3-0 in his career as a starter against the Raiders. All right, this was not just a good bounce-back moment, not just your surge from the backup. This was Andy Dalton doing what Andy Dalton has done when given the opportunity. Week 3 against Vegas, 200-plus passing yards, 3+ passing touchdowns in the first half. So it now begs the question, Ryan Wilson, what was that? And why did that happen with this guy? Where was the disconnect? Was this something that maybe you saw like teams get when there is drastic change, that sort of surge? Or is this a different team with that different quarterback?
You know what's funny, Joe, as someone who covers the draft at CBS Sports as well, if you told me that Andy Dalton was the first overall pick in last year's draft, that's how you would expect him to play.
Spinning it.
And former second-round pick back in 2012, and 5 straight times you led the Domingos to the playoffs as a rookie and onward. But the take, we're excited about this opportunity. We heard him talk about this earlier in the week, and then he comes out and plays some of the best ball he's played since those Bengals days. I think it says something that a former Bengal and a former Steeler are lighting up this offense in Carolina after what you talked about being 18+ games of sub-mediocrity. Coming into this game, they were converting 9.1% of their third downs, 42% today. Last time Andy Dalton played, he threw for 360. Tonight, 319 and 3 touchdowns. There's no going back to Bryce, barring injury.
Well, that becomes the question now. Not if or when you do go back to Bryce, but there is some reporting suggesting that his road has not come to an end in Carolina. So what that road looks like, that becomes the big question mark. Do the ends justify the means in your eyes? Whether it was David Tepper, Canales looking at the tape, whoever made this decision, they have to feel pretty justified in the decision that they did make.
If you watch last week's game that Bryce Young played, it was the worst game he's probably played in his life. And if you're not improving from 2023 to 2024 with Dave Canales, who has a track record of getting the most out of quarterbacks, Geno Smith, we know Baker Mayfield last year, Andy Dalton you can add to the list, although Andy Dalton's been a good quarterback for a long time. This makes all the sense in the world. However you got to this answer, it ends up being the right answer. So to answer your question, Bryce can be frustrated. Bryce can try to figure this out and get better, but there's no reason, if everyone's healthy, why you would put him back out there given what we saw today. They went on the road in a game, I don't know what the line was, but I'm sure they were not favorites, and they absolutely took it to a Raiders team that's coming off a huge win last week in Baltimore.
Well, if you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, you're now left to develop a quarterback without game day repetition and still tell him you're going to get your chance. I don't know when that chance comes, but Andy Dalton certainly comporting himself well in his first. He is your final from Seattle. The Seahawks now an unblemished 3-0 to start the season. Ryan Wilson here to dive into this one, Ryan. This was, I don't want to say a foregone conclusion, but it took the paces of what we expected. A team facing all sorts of attrition with their quarterback, emotionally maybe drained as well, but Seattle once again taking care of business. What jumped off the page at you here in the performance by Seattle?
Well, I think when you have Geno Smith playing at the level he's playing at, you have to feel really good. He had that silly interception early in the game and came back. They weren't able to get any points out of it, and Seattle came right back and marched down the field. He wore out DK Metcalf all day long. We certainly knew that Ken Walker wasn't going to play, so they leaned on Zach Charbonnet, who averaged more than 5 yards per carry, and the defense was able to get after it. But as you note, Joe, they were banged up injury-wise on the other side of the ball, and you talk about no Tua. They traveled across the country. A lot of times we give Seattle we complain about them having to travel from west to east and how that burdens them. No such issue. Seattle at home, 3-0. They're the best team in that division, which is sort of funny when we talked about the Rams and the 49ers coming into the season. And they are finding ways to win that aren't necessarily pretty. And I think a lot of credit not only goes to Geno, as we talked about, first-year head coach Mike Macdonald, because we've seen head coaches in year one struggle. Nothing seems to overwhelm Mike Macdonald. He seems to have an answer for everything, and that's encouraging for a locker room full of veterans, and that's encouraging if you're a Seahawks fan.
We will try not to get mixed up with the McDaniel here, but I do want to talk about Miami's head coach for just a moment, because this is the first time under his tutelage that this team finds itself sub 500. It's been a really good start to the head coaching career, but facing the most attrition that this team has since Tua's last concussions 2 years ago. What is the road forward? Because this is going to be an extended time with Tua on the IR and the future beyond that unknown as well. Is it get Tyler Huntley up to speed? Is it count on Skylar Thompson? Is it change the offensive approach? Where do you go from here if you're Miami?
And we'll see where Skylar Thompson is, because he took a lot of hits in this game. And I think it doesn't really matter who the quarterback's going to be. You have to get Tua healthy, see where he is going forward, and just try to figure things out between now and then. I don't want to say the season's lost, Joe, but there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and you don't have the personnel right now on the field to answer those questions.
Taking a look at some numbers coming out of this one, as this is another deep ball to the likes of DK. Most 50-yard touchdown receptions since 2019. Now 7 to his name, the long 71-yarder that opened up the scoring in this one, or at least extended it to where it would end up. 24-3 your final. For more, we take you out to the site where Trent Green joins us following the call on this one. Trent, this was a tough watch for the Miami fans, and I do want to start on that side of the ledger. It seemed like the most animated we'd seen Mike McDaniel throughout his tenure. Some players expressing frustration on the sideline, understandably so. How does a team this talented keep their edge through this attrition?
Well, and I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, right? You lose your starting quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. He's going to be on IR for a month. Skylar Thompson comes in. He's been in the system for 3 years, so you think you're going to be able to run smoothly, and they couldn't. They just didn't. He was under pressure, sacked a bunch, I think 5 times before he left the game. He was hit another 6 or 7 times before he left the game, and really the pressure that Mike McDonald's defense was able to put him under all day never got them into any kind of rhythm. They didn't have much success down in the red zone today, 0 for 2 in the red zone. No touchdowns, only 1 field goal. So when you get the ball down in there and not able to come away with touchdowns, and then I think the crowd noise. I know they acted, when we talked to them yesterday, they acted like the crowd noise, they had prepared for it all week. The crowd noise caused problems, whether it was at the line of scrimmage with the number of penalties or just the fact communicating the play into Skylar Thompson and getting the play called. It caused problems all day. You got to give credit to this crowd.
And as Ryan Wilson put it moments ago, the toughest trip you're going to take in the NFL, South Florida to the Pacific Northwest, the travel that this team had to endure on top of all that was in front of them as well. It's going to be a team whose identity is now tested, but you allude to some of the things that Seattle's doing early in this season, especially defensively. Looks like an identity being forged here through 3 games. Just how impressed are you about the way things have taken so quickly form under a new head coach?
Well, I think the thing that's impressive to me, and not necessarily today because they were in control of this game from the whole time, the entire day, was the previous 2 games, right? You have Walker, you're focused on the running game, not a lot of passing game. Your defense plays well. You find a way to win at the end of the game. You come from behind and get the late win. And then in week number 2, no Walker, so you have to throw the ball a bunch of times. Geno Smith, career high 33 completions in that second week game, but the defense gave up a bunch of yards on the ground and not much through the air. Once again, they found a way to win. Got a late field goal, got to overtime, and got the win. And then here today, they come in a different system, a different team you're facing, a different dynamic in terms of offense. Week 1, you're going against a Bo Nix offense in Denver, making his first NFL start. And then Jacoby Brissett and that New England offense is not what the Dolphins have offensively. So when you start measuring all that things up, the defense has had to make adjustments. They found ways to win the first 2 weeks, and then today they were just dominant on that side of the ball. I thought Mike McDonald's plan was outstanding. I thought the defense responded well. A week ago, they were poor in their tackling, poor in their assignments, and not rallying to the ball because the New England Patriots were able to run the ball so effectively. Today, we saw all those corrections. They were rallying to the ball. They were getting a lot of bodies around the ball, and they weren't missing tackles.
3 different tests through 3 weeks, to your point, and that's 3 tests for the fridge. Trent Green, we appreciate you stopping by, as always, here on HQ.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, here's a look at your box score again coming off this one. Skylar Thompson, it was a tough go. Was under pressure. Scot-free runner caught him on the ribs and shortly thereafter left this game. But Geno Smith, 289, a touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Attention, Raider Nation. Today we bring you news that has left more than one speechless and with many questions about the future of the team. In an unexpected turn of events, the Las Vegas Raiders fell 36-22 to the Carolina Panthers, a team that decided to bench rookie quarterback Bryce Young in favor of veteran Andy Dalton. And the result was a tough blow for the Silver and Black. Andy Dalton not only took control, but he shined. The veteran threw for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns, becoming the first quarterback this season to surpass 300 yards and throw 3 or more touchdowns in a single game. This wasn't just any loss of fans. It was a game in which the Panthers, who were coming off more than 20-point losses in their first two meetings, seemed to be on their way to another season to forget. However, with Dalton at the helm, they changed the narrative completely. Many expected the Raiders, who were coming off an impressive win over the Baltimore Ravens last week, to continue their winning ways. But instead, they were met with a painful loss to a team that seemed to be on the verge of collapse. NFL fans were quick to make their displeasure known, harshly criticizing both the team and head coach Antonio Pierce for letting a victory that seemed within reach slip away. Antonio Pierce, who took over with high expectations, faced the press after the game and, although he tried to remain calm, he could not prevent the criticism from intensifying. The Raiders, who have had a feared defense in the past, this time could not contain Dalton or the Panthers' offense, who seemed to have total control of the game, as if they were the 2007 New England Patriots led by Tom Brady. And on the other side of the ball, the Raiders' offense simply couldn't respond, making the Panthers look like a modern version of the legendary 1985 Chicago Bears. It's important to remember that things in the NFL change quickly, and while this loss has been tough, the Raiders still have time to course correct. However, the outcome of this game leaves a big question mark over how far this team can go in a season that started with so much promise. Raider Nation has to stay strong, because while this loss was tough to digest, there's still a lot of season left. But one thing is certain, the team needs to show significant improvement if they want to become serious contenders again. The next few games will be decisive, and all eyes will be on how the team responds after this blow. What do you think, fans? Was this just an unexpected loss or indicative of deeper issues on the team? Leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates and analysis of the team. See you in the next video, hopefully with better news for our Raiders.